Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is SockBot, and I've been doing a lot more creating lately, so today I wanted to talk about more specific creating type things, and not so much a tutorial, but also partially tutorial. So today I want to talk about moving platforms, because I can tell you one thing I've seen in a lot of games on Dreams, and in most AAA games, to be perfectly honest, is that moving platforms are just boring, and there's so much more you can do with such a simple object, and so that's what I want to talk about today, because I do enjoy overanalyzing really simple things and making them way more complicated than they need to be, but also hopefully more fun. At least that's what I like to think. But anyways, that's what I want to talk about today. If you are interested in more specific tutorials about stuff like this, let me know down in the comments, and feel free to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more, but no pressure as always, because I'm just happy to see you here. I mean, feel free to stick around to the end of the video to see if you actually do enjoy it and want to do those sorts of things, because yeah, why wouldn't you do that? But anyways, how are you doing today? Before we get in, just wanted to check in and be like, sup guys. I get excited about this stuff, but also like, hi, thanks for coming over and seeing my channel and watching my videos. It's good to see you for another Saturday video, because I was too busy to make one on Thursday. Okay, let's actually get into the video now. I'm sorry about that. So if you're a veteran from Little Big Planet, I'm sure you're very familiar with moving platforms in their many forms. But veteran or not, the first thing that you're going to realize is that moving platforms work very differently in Dreams. For the most part, you'll have the easiest time making these platforms through animation, and while that might seem scary, especially for veterans that are used to using pistons and winches, it's actually super easy, and it's a great way to practice your animation skills, which then you can use for more complicated applications in the future. Now, obviously, I am assuming that you have gone through the tutorial for basic animation, because everybody should, but if you haven't, here is the quickest of refreshers. To make a basic moving platform, first, create the platform that you want to move, then you're going to grab a timeline out of the animation tab and plonk it down, place the platform where you want it to start, and then grab a keyframe from the animation tab and plonk it at the very beginning of the timeline. The second that you put it down, you'll be in animation mode, so grab the platform and don't move it at all. It should stay in the place that you want it to start moving from. This sets your starting position, so now you can click the stop button on the right side of the screen to stop recording. Add another keyframe in the middle of the timeline, and this time grab and drag your platform to the farthest point that you want the platform to go before you hit stop once again. You don't have to drag it perfectly there, just make sure it is there before you hit stop. Then, to make the platform return to its initial point, just copy the first keyframe that you made and put it at the end of the timeline. Now, hover over the space between the keyframes on the timeline and hit the appropriate button combination depending on which controller you're using, and it will add a blend between the keyframes. Finally, go into the options of the timeline itself, select Loop as an option, and click the power button to get your platform moving. Feel free to play around with the timing there too if you don't want it taking super long to get between the two sides of your platform moving area, but regardless, voila, you have created a basic moving platform. But unfortunately, your platform is now very boring. And I know I told you to make it that way, so blame me for that, but also listen to the following advice, because now we're going to get to the fun part. The first thing that you'll probably want to do is add a delay on both sides of the moving platform. Assuming that it takes your character from one place to another, you want to give the player time to actually jump on the moving platform, so extend the length of the first and second keyframes to make the platform pause on both sides. You do this by literally scaling the keyframe, which will not just make it bigger like most types of scaling, but will lengthen it on the timeline. If you're ahead of me and you now have more positions than 2 where you want the platform to stop, you can do this for all of those as well. But oh no, we're not done there. Don't settle for a simple back and forth platform, because now we're going to add more keyframes between the first and second positions while placing the platform likewise to make what I've dubbed a swooshing platform. Because, I don't know, it just seemed swooshy. That made sense. I feel like swooshy sounds like a bad word, but it's not, right? Let me know if it is. But don't worry, blend mode will smooth out any sharp turns that you make when you're creating these swooshies, so you don't have to be super exact. But if you're not into swooshing, how about a Super Mario Bros. Style rising platform? For this, you're going to create 3 or so platforms and place them spread out between the top and bottom of your platform moving area. Place down 3 keyframes at the same point in the timeline, that is, on top of one another, and now you should have one column of keyframes that represent the starting position of each separate platform. Each row of keyframes that we're about to build is going to be for each individual platform. So edit each initial keyframe and select one platform to start at the top of your area, one to start in the middle, and one to start at the bottom. And that should set all three of those keyframes, and well, we're done with those for now. But copy all of the three keyframes that you've made so far and plonk down their copies to the right of the previous keyframes on the timeline. Leave some space in between each row, and then edit each keyframe and platform respectively to move up one slot, or if you're editing the platform at the top of your area, to the bottom slot. E.g., the bottom will go to the middle will go to the top, and the top will go to the bottom. Do this one more time for the third keyframe in each row, and then take the original three keyframes and copy them to the end. Now you're going to use the blend tool just like before, but only between the keyframes where the platform is going from the bottom to the middle or the middle to the top. You don't want any blend for platforms going from top to bottom because you want them to teleport there. Now don't forget to hit the power button in the tweak menu of the timeline and also turn on loop while you're there. This will create the infinite appearing platforms effect, which is interesting and far less boring, but we can still do more. Because why would I be making a whole video about this if I didn't think we could do more? So let's do more! So, now that I'm getting completely insane, it's time for some launching platforms. Now, this is somewhat less complicated than the appearing platforms that I just mentioned, but it is, in my opinion, far more fun to use. I haven't talked about flow much recently, but this is actually a really good flow-inducing obstacle that doesn't require that much creativity or skill to create. Though remind me to never use the phrase flow-inducing again, because it's terrifying, and now I've brought it to the forefront of everybody's imagination. Sorry about that. Anyways, to make this sort of platform, place down a timeline and a keyframe as usual, and set the starting position of the first platform. Create another keyframe for the top of the launch and move the platform likewise. Again, make sure to lengthen the first keyframe so that the player has a second to jump on before it launches, and don't forget to stop recording after you move the platform for each keyframe. Now, you could just copy the first keyframe to the end, make sure that the keyframes are close together, and blend, and that will give you a quick moving platform that just so happens to launch the player upward, but the way that I like to make these platforms is to use the Parabolic Blend, which is the one that looks like an upside-down umbrella, between the bottom and the top positions, e.g. during the launch. This causes the player to speed up as they launch upward, and it feels a bit more satisfying while playing, in my personal opinion, but while moving back down, you can feel free to leave the blend on linear. This makes it look more like the platform has a launch and reset phase, rather than just a basic, quickly moving platform, and you can put a bit more distance between the keyframes in this example if you want. Feel free to play around with the keyframes and the timing within the tweak menu of the timeline in general to get it just right for your character, and finally, don't forget to turn on loop and hit the power button for the timeline. But this is just a few examples of somewhat interesting moving platforms. There are a million combinations of them that you can make to create unique platforming segments with a bit more motion in them, and I highly recommend you do. The arrangement of them is totally up to you, but I do want to add a few warnings here. First, don't make the platforms move too fast or too slow. Too fast, and the character is going to fly off of them hilariously, but, not nice for your level actually getting complete. But if you make it too slow, the player is going to have to wait an obnoxious amount of time for the platform to arrive, which gets really annoying if they fail and have to redo the obstacle. Next, make sure that the player can always see the next platform in advance of when they need to jump to that platform. To explain, with moving platforms, it's very easy to create sections that are easy for a creator to play because you know what's coming, but you want to make sure, especially with platforms and launching platforms, that the player can always see what's coming with enough time to react. I go back to this philosophy a lot. In essence, a talented enough player should be able to run through your level in one try without dying, assuming that they make no mistakes. Obviously, they will, and the level should be difficult enough to where this doesn't really happen, but in other words, the player should never think, how was I supposed to know what to do there, if they do fail an obstacle. So last warning, and this is something that I've only recently started thinking about, try not to have moving platforms that are moving the camera all over the place in different directions. It's okay to have platforms that move significant distances, as long as you're following the previous rule, but don't have them zipping all over the place giving people motion sickness. Obviously, you might not get motion sickness, but if you think that others might, this shows that there's a bigger issue with your platform's animation being too complicated.
You want them to be predictable so the player can see what they're supposed to use the platform for, and adding too many twists and turns kind of cheapens your hard work. Feel free to split the platform into 2 or more separate moving platforms if you really want them to follow a specific path that is somewhat complicated, and that should solve most issues. But yeah, that's my Moving Platforms 101 class. Let me know if you have any tips of your own to leave in the comments down below. If there are any specific types of moving platforms that I didn't talk about, definitely let me know, especially if you don't know how to make them and have seen them in another game and want to know how to make them, because I might be able to help with that. Or if I can, hopefully somebody else in the comments down below, because I am not a know-it-all in the sense that I don't know it all. But let me know if you want any other specific tutorial type videos of things that you don't know how to make, and if I don't know how to make them, I will look them up and figure out how to make them specifically for a video, because that's what I do for a lot of my videos. But in other words, I just want to know what you guys need help with, because that's what I'm here for. But regardless, have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you want to see more, but no pressure as always, and for now, goodbye!